My thought for today is that we talk about a couple of things. We talk about, first off, the coming digital LSAT starting this summer and then into the fall, and some of the other policy changes happening from LSAC, the Law School Admission Council, this year. Because 2019 is kind of a big year for the LSAT as it goes digital. It's been paper and pencil basically forever since 1948, including its modern formation in June 1991. And so you're used to those booklets, those books of 10 exams. But starting this summer in July specifically, half of students will get the digital format on the tablet, half will get paper and pencil. LSAC chooses for you, and you don't get any advance notice at all. So that's kind of a crazy circumstance, and I certainly wouldn't want to be in that situation myself, but it is what it is, and we'll make the best of it. If you really want to take the paper and pencil format, then I would suggest starting with the June LSAT and taking that. That's only 2 months out though, and I know you all have been in this LSAT class, you've been studying for a while, and so you could well be fully prepared for June if you buckle down for the few weeks after the semester ends. So I would say try for that if you want the paper, if that's important to you. Otherwise, don't worry about it and go for the digital version instead, whether it's in July or the fall and beyond. So June is paper, July you might get either format, then in the fall, it's 100% digital on the tablet specifically. So those are just a few things to be aware of. And when I talk about tablet, I really do mean tablet. The GMAT and the GRE, I believe they're on the actual desktop computer or a laptop. The LSAT will actually be on a tablet, specifically a Microsoft Surface Go tablet. And so I'm not saying you have to get that exact tablet, but it would be a worthwhile investment for you to get some kind of tablet, maybe an iPad, maybe a Samsung Galaxy. The Samsungs are around $200-300, which I think is well worth the investment, even if it is something else additional to shell out for. Because if that level of comfort you get on the tablet gets you even one more point on the LSAT, that could lead to thousands of dollars in scholarship money, or even potentially getting into a better law school. So in my opinion, it really is a no-brainer to go for the tablet if you're able to make the investment or find someone who's able to help you out with that. In the June LSAT, despite the fact that the June LSAT is paper and pencil, there will actually be a digital writing sample. So that's kind of funny, actually, that you'll be doing the 5 LSAT scored sections at the test center, but then at home on your own time for up to 1 year after your actual LSAT test administration, you'll be able to do the writing sample from home on your own computer. They'll monitor it with a webcam and a microphone to make sure it's really you for test security purposes. They'll have you hold up your government ID to the camera, again, to verify it's really you. And they're really just doing this to verify your English fluency if they have any concerns about someone being a non-native speaker or someone who might not have written their own law school personal statement. That's kind of why they do that. But it's really not worth devoting too much attention to it, although I do think that law schools will devote a little bit more attention to it on their end, just because it will be more legible than your handwriting chicken scratch after 5 sections of LSAT stuff. So take it seriously, put some effort into it, but you could spend 20 to 25 minutes typing it and then spend the remainder just kind of double checking for typos and misspellings and things like that. But I wouldn't place too much importance on it. The other big policy change I think that you want to think about is the fact that LSAC has removed the limit on the number of times you can take the LSAT. It used to be that you could only take it 3 times in a 2-year period. And I don't really know why they had that rule, but they removed it to be more student friendly. Now there's no limit on how many times you could take it. You could take it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And I actually think you might want to consider taking it 3 or more times. I know that sounds crazy and you don't want to spend so much time on the LSAT, you want to move on with your life. But again, because law schools do not average multiple LSAT scores and they only take the highest, even just a point or 2 more on the LSAT could get you scholarship money or even a full ride or get you into a better law school. And so you look at the ROI on that, getting into a top 14 or graduating debt-free, the value of that is enormous. And it's a funny thing because LSAT scores, they're numbers, they're supposed to be valid data, but there's variation, obviously. You see that your practice scores might fluctuate based on how you're doing that day or what might come up on that particular LSAT exam. So let's say that your actual test average is a 155 or a 160. Let's just say it's a 160. There's a score band or a margin of error of 3.5 points on either end, meaning that one day you could get a 164. Another day, you could get a 156, even if your average is a 160. But obviously, a 164 will open far more doors for you than a 160 would. And obviously, a 157 or 156 is not desirable either. But you could take it 3 different times and get all 3 of those different scores. But law schools take you as if you had only ever gotten the 164. They don't care about the 157. They don't care about the 160. And so you maximize your odds of getting that higher end just by taking it more time. So to me, that seems like a no-brainer. And the funny thing about the LSAT being offered more frequently going forward, you may know that the LSAT's now offered 9-10 times a year, as opposed to previously having only been offered 4 times a year. So there are more and more opportunities to retake. And the June and July LSATs coming up this year, there's only a 5-6 week gap in between them, which is a very small gap relative to how it used to be. It used to be a 3-month gap. So now, let's say you go for June, it's June 3rd this year, you take it, you have no clue how you did because of course you have to wait 3 weeks to get your score back. You could just do 1 timed exam per week over the 5 to 6 week period in between those 2 LSAT test dates, then take it in July. Maybe you do 3 to 4 points better. Maybe you remain the same. Maybe you go down a couple points. There's really no downside because they'll only take the highest. You get 3 to 4 points higher, you apply with that, you're good. Or maybe you take it in June and July, and then you take it again in the fall. There's 3 LSAT test dates in the fall, back to back, September, October, November, only 1 month apart from each other. So once again, only a 4-week gap maybe in that case. No reason not to stay fresh on it. Just do 1 timed exam a week and review it. And that's enough. You can still have some balance in your life and have other things going on, whether it's another semester this fall or you're working or whatever it is. You've got the time. It's not that much more additional effort, maybe another 10 hours a week for those 4 or 5 weeks. I think it's well worth it. It's funny, you think about it, your LSAT score you earn in a single day, but your undergraduate GPA takes you 4 years, yet your LSAT score is weighted more heavily, even though it takes less time to get it. So a lot of times people will study for only 2 to 3 months and be done with it when it weighs more heavily than the undergraduate GPAs. And so I think it's worth devoting 5 to 6 months for this if you need it and taking it at least 2 or 3 times. I think that the stigma around retakes is really going away. Law schools, again, only have incentive to take the highest score because that's all they have to submit to the American Bar Association. That's all that's factored into the US News rankings, which everyone values very heavily.